Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the Separatist army. We're doing another tier list. In the last one, Separatist was the first to be requested. So in this episode, drop in the comments which you want to see next. We've only got Empire and Republic left, but let me know which to do first because obviously Christmas and New Year, it might be a while before I can do it. So it might be a while till we get the last one. But we are going to get into the Separatist for this one. So I did find it very hard to list these, especially number 5. I think my top 4 are kind of strong. I would say 5 is as well. It's definitely no slouch, but it's a lot of points. I will get into that shortly. But Separatist is also one that I've played the least of, I would say. I like Republic, I play Rebels, I play against Empire all the time. So I had the least idea about this army. Had to do a little more research, look through all the cards, tried to build my own army of it, and then what I was sort of leaning towards, what lists I've seen, what I've seen other people say. Take all that into account and build this list. Obviously, a tier list is difficult because there's points. So do you compare card for card? Because that doesn't really work. Obviously, they've got point costs, which needs to weigh into it. But also then you need to think of combos. And do you look at the metagame currently? Because that's going to be affected by what other people are playing. So they're not necessarily the best models, but the best counters. And it gets into this thing where you're not really sure what to pick. So I've tried to really focus on how good the card is itself, try to ignore combos, but it's kind of difficult, especially for the Separatists, but we'll get into that with I think it's number 1 and number 2, 3. But we're at number 5. I'm going to stop waffling. In at number 5, I've gone for Count Dooku. Now, obviously, he is very expensive. He's 205 on this picture. I think he's 195 currently. But there's so much to like about him. He's got cunning, he's got deflect, he's got immune to pierce, which most of the Force users do. As well as that, he's got 3 Force upgrades. With the addition of Master of the Force 2, all the strongest ones are going to have the activation thing, so he can ready 2 of those up at the end of the turn. It's just so powerful. It means he can keep using the stuff he wants to. There's no downtime for Count Dooku. I would say one of the most important things is the command card, so having that built in as well, it just makes him so powerful. But let's go through some of his stats before we get into the command cards, because that is what got him on this list. It was between him and Greivous. I think they were both quite good. I could have gone for the Stat Riders, which I have played less or seen less, so I didn't think I was qualified to put them in. I have seen them in a lot of lists, and I do understand why, but I felt I could talk about Count Dooku more. I love the character as well, so I was slightly biased, and I think he edges out Greivous just because of the Force abilities. But other than that, he's got Dooku's lightsaber, which is 5 red. So with a saber throw, you're doing 3 red. It's got impact 2, pierce 2. He's also got lightning for 5 black dice, which is 2 range. It's got pierce 1 and scatter. He's one of the few users to get to do this, obviously. So I think he's just so powerful. He's got so much going for him offensively. He's got surge to crit. He's got 6 health with 3 courage as well. So they're all good stats. The only thing, the downside for him is obviously as a commander, he's going to take up probably a quarter of your army. Maybe even more once you've got all the upgrades and stuff on him. But it does make it worth it because of his command cards. Obviously, all of his command cards are quite good, but the best one by a mile is Fear, Surprise, Intimidation, which gives Count Dooku Arsenal 2, Relentless, and each of his ranged weapons gains Versatile. After he performs an attack, each defender gains 2 suppression. I don't know why they added that last part because in my experience, whatever he's going for, he's going to slash through it completely. He's going to tear apart units. He's going to tear apart other Jedis. He's just absolutely terrifying, as he should be for those points. He's up there with Vader's points. And I really like this character. I think slightly biased because I love Count Dooku anyway, but what's not to love about Christopher Lee? In at number 4, I've gone for the B2 Super Battle Droids. Now, I had these higher on the list originally. I've taken them down a few spots. I do think they're one of the better units for this army, but I do also think, obviously this is a Separatist list, so I'm going to say now the B1s are on this list. So comboed with these guys, I think they're really good. I think they're really good anyway, especially when you start adding stuff like the T-Series droids to them. It just makes them so much more powerful. Looking at their card and not seeing many abilities or stuff might put you off, but remember, you get 3 of these guys. They've got 2 health, they've got 2 courage, all good stats. They've got a black and white for attacking. 2 range is okay. They've got 2 movement. But for the points, and they have been lowered, I believe. Only slightly, but they have been lowered. As well as the 45 points they are currently, you get AI attack. So unless you have a face-up order token, your first action must be an attack if able. Now, a lot of the units in Separatists are going to have this. It's just a way to make them feel like AI rather than actual characters, and I do think it's quite cool. It's not necessarily the best in terms of tier list, because you might not necessarily want to shoot straight away. Maybe you want to try and do other things. As well as that, they do also get armor 1, so while defending they can cancel a hit, which is pretty good. There's not much to hate about these guys, and when paired with the B1s and other things in the Separatist lists, you can really get your money's worth of these. You might be slightly put off by the cost, but you got to remember what you get for that. You get 3 characters with 2 health. You can't hate these things. They are also iconic from the movie, so that hasn't weighed too much into my decision because I did take them down a few. I think that's kind of cool as well. Sure, you only get 3 units, but then you got to add the B2 HA Trooper or one of the additions to get an extra one, then the T series. So you're looking more like 5, and these things are monsters. They add some red dice to your attack pool. They give you slightly more range. It's that kind of thing that can catch your opponent out. And I think that might be why some people may be looking at this thinking, why are they on this list? There's stuff you add on to them. There's combinations that make them more powerful than they seem. In at number 3, I've gone for the BX series Droid Commandos. Now, there was a reason above all else. I'll go through this. They've got tons on their card. They've got good dice, but I will go into why they've made the top, and that was the Sniper Droid. So by adding 30 points to these, you get the Sniper Droid, which is range 1 to 5 with 2 red dice, which is insane. As good as Cassian, maybe better. They get lethal 1. While attacking, spend up to 1 aim token to gain Pierce 1. They've also got immune deflect, which I think is the most important part. Imagine firing a sniper rifle across the battlefield and then it grabbed by a Jedi and somehow thrown back. It doesn't really make sense. So I'm really glad they added that and clarified. But these things in general, other than that, are really good. So you get the usual AI stuff. So they've got the option of dodge and move. Unless you have a face-up order, they've got to do one of those actions, which I do actually like a lot more than the regular AI, because normally you're going to put a dodge token on or move depending where you are. So I don't think these are really that detrimental. Of course, it does take away options again, so there is that to weigh up. But other than that, they've got Impervious. So while defending, if the attack pool has Pierce X, roll additional dice, which is always good. They've also got Scout 3 and Sharpshooter 1. So Scout 3 is going to let them move 3 when they deploy, which is good to get them in position. They've got some good stats up close, and you can add stuff like swords, which does make them more interesting. Obviously, you've got the sniper as well, so it really depends how you want to play these guys. You can do the smaller strike teams, which again is a bonus of picking these up. So if you're looking at this list on stuff you should pick up, I would put these right near the top. It just means there's a ton of different ways to play them. You can play them the up close, like dive in, run at them, or you can play them holding back, sharpshooter, ignoring cover, taking pop shots with very powerful sniper rifles. They're going to quickly take out a few units. So I think they are one to keep an eye on. And even for their points, point-wise, I think they're good. They're a lot better than the regular core units and stuff, which they should be. When they start to add additional stuff, that's when these things really improve. And I think you'll notice that as kind of a theme for Separatists in particular. Obviously, with any unit, they get a lot better. But I think Separatists really shine when they start adding stuff. And they can look slightly basic before. Although this guy doesn't. He's got 3 range, 2 white, which is pretty good. 1 health, obviously, but you do get 4 of them. You get the red defense dice. There's not much to hate about these guys. They're one of my favorite Separatist units if I was doing this list based off my preference. So they had to be on here somewhere because I do think they're really strong as well. Coming in at number 2, I've gone for my actual favorite Separatist unit, Darth Maul. Now, obviously, if you look and compare this against Dooku, Dooku is going to overpower this guy, but there is a fairly substantial price difference, around 25 points. My math sucks, 35 points, but there's a reason I prefer this. In a Separatist list, you're going to want to stack those B1s, stack those B2s, so you've got a ton of units. Because you get the extra bodies in your core units, I think it's really important to have those. So I do like the cheaper version of Maul, but also one downside is he is only an operative. So you see him paired with stuff like T-Series quite a lot, because obviously that's only a 70-point commander. I think fits in perfectly. So in the current meta game, I would say he's one of the best. But let's have a look at his card and break down why. So he gets Jump 1, which is good for any Jedi just to sort of move around the battlefield. He's got Deflect, which again, most Force users have, I should say, rather than Jedi. As this guy definitely is not. It just means you can deflect stuff. And then he's got Immune to Pierce, again, most Force users have. But very unique to him, he's got a mastery which says while you're wounded, you can perform one additional action during your activation. Limit to movement. I'm glad they added the last part, because if he could fly across the battlefield in one turn, might be a little broken, although he would be in trouble all the way over there. But I'm glad there's clarification on that. Let's take a look at his weapon though. So Maul's double-bladed lightsaber, 4 red dice and 4 white dice. That's 8 dice you're getting to roll. Fine, some are white. A lot of them are red, or half of them are red. He's an absolute monster offensively, which is, again, the same as Dooku. He's got 6 health, he's got the red defense dice. He has got the 2 force abilities, but he doesn't have any way to ready them like Dooku. So I guess that's another point for Dooku. I do think Maul is better though, especially because of the lower points. He's got Impact 2, Pierce 2. There's a lot to love about Maul. And I think how low points he is does play into this, because you want to fill your army with other stuff. But this guy's an absolute monster. The reason you're going to want to play him though is because, again, the command cards. I'm trying to think if there's another one. There might be. This might be incorrect, but he's one of the few, if not the only I know of, that has 2 1-pip cards. So that means you're going to get to activate first a lot of the time, which can be very important. Obviously, you're going to get to go first, so you could kill characters before they even get to activate. That's with At Last, which counts as a 3-pip when you build your hand, but when you actually play it, it's a 1-pip, so you get 2 of those. He also gets Jedi Hunter and Aim. So in that round, he's going to absolutely demolish stuff. One of my favorites, though, is the Phantom Menace. So Maul cannot attack, which sounds bad, but enemy units beyond range 2 of Maul cannot attack him. So that means if you can sort of measure up where you can move, you can throw him across the battlefield and still be safe, ready to fly in next turn. And that's using some of the probe droids that he gets with him. So I do like in his pack, you get extra things as well, which was a bonus. Obviously, it doesn't come into a tier list. But I think if you're looking at Separatists, this is another great model to pick up. It's a lot of fun to paint. It's a lot of fun to build. You get a little bit extra for your money. And it's Darth Maul. He was one of the saving graces of the original trilogy for a lot of people, especially the Phantom Menace, because obviously he doesn't appear after that. But I think he really saves that movie. It is one of the worst Star Wars movies. There's a lot of stuff to love about it. I do like the original trilogy, nowhere near the hate that other people do. So yeah, Darth Maul, one of my favorite characters. And obviously, if you're a fan of Clone Wars and stuff, you do get to see him again, which is quite cool. In at number 1, though, I think most people, I would hope, predicted it before. If you're a Separatist player, you probably know how good these things are. It's the B1 Battle Droids. Looking at their card, they've gone up to 38 points now, which should give you some idea that they were very overpowered at that cost. It's only a slight increase, not enough to knock them off. But why? They've got AI attack, which isn't necessarily that great. They've got Coordinate, Droid Trooper. After you are issued an order, you may issue an order to a friendly droid, which is why these guys are quite good. You can sort of link stuff up and activate the B2s and do some really cool stuff with them. But they've only got 1 health. They've only got a white dice, like most core units. So why do they stand out? If you're a new player, you've probably missed in the top corner where it tells you how many you get. A regular core unit is going to have 4. These guys have 6. Now, that might not seem like a massive difference, but let's say you have your 3 core units, which you need for a battle. You've now got 6 extra, which again, might not seem like a massive difference, but on top of that, you can start to add in other models. You can add T-Series, you can add specialists and stuff like that. You can add other bodies and units, and they've got a lot of good choices. There's guys with rocket launchers, guys with sniper rifles, so there are options for them. But the fact that you can have so many is very important, especially it is good in like those deathmatch scenarios when you're trying to finish them off. Obviously, you've got more characters, so you're going to roll more dice. You're going to roll more dice towards the end as you start to lose some. Numbers are everything in this game. Having more dice, technically more wounds because you've got more characters, so you can hold around longer. You can stop your opponent getting victory points for killing off a unit. There's so many ways that this makes battle droids better than other core units. Most importantly, it lets you hold objectives. You only need 1 character to do it. So the fact that you get extra means you definitely have an advantage in those scenarios. They've got a ton of upgrades. You can add spotter, you can add a ton of different stuff to make them more useful. Most people will just run the 3 core, but in these armies, I've seen people run 4, 5, 6. With the B2s, obviously there's a combination now, so maybe 4 of these guys, 2 of the super battle droids. But the fact that these are one of the few core units that are stacked, that are ran as sort of like swarm armies, I think that should be enough of an indication why they are number 1 and why they are one, if not the best core unit in the game. Obviously, this is all subjective, so let me know in the comments any you disagree with, any you think should have been on here or shouldn't have been. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.